Good evening, everybody. It's such a perfect night for a concert. Glad to see you all here. My name is Liz Leahy, and we are the Canton American Legion Community Band. We are both a concert band and a marching band, and our members are from several different communities in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. We rehearse and we perform all year long, and we've had a very busy spring and summer. Today's program is our 6th concert that we have presented in 5 different communities. And our marching band has recently marched in 11 parades and ceremonies in several towns in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. We're very happy to be here tonight to play for you, and we'd like to thank Liz Francis and Audrey Cohen from the Canton Park and Recreation Department for sponsoring us tonight. We are going to begin with the national anthem, so please stand as you are able. Our next 2 tunes are probably ones that you're all familiar with, Yankee Doodle Boy and You're a Grand Old Flag. These are both by George M. Cohan, who was born in 1878 in Providence, Rhode Island. And Cohan began his career in music as a youngster with his sisters and parents in a vaudeville act called The Four Cohans. Over his long musical career, he wrote music for over 300 songs. Cohan was very patriotic, as is obvious from his song titles, and he was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor from President Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Feel free to sing along if you know the words. Next up is a song called There's a Long, Long Trail by Zoe Elliott. Elliott was born in Manchester, New Hampshire in 1891. He was highly educated in music and the arts, and if that wasn't enough, he also went to law school. He began his efforts at composing at age 14. There's a Long, Long Trail was written in 1914 when he was a senior at Yale University. The song was published in London, England, and it became very popular during World War I. There's a long, long trail. We'd like to take this opportunity to honor the men and women of the U.S. Armed Forces, those currently serving, and our veterans and families of veterans. Do we have any veterans here? I know a few. Yes, we do. Okay, great, great, great. Well, our next selection is called Armed Forces Salute, and this is arranged by Bob Loden. When you hear your service song, those of you who are veterans and even families of veterans, go ahead and stand so that we can recognize you. Armed Forces Salute. Thank you to all our veterans.
Our next piece is called Italian Festival. This is a medley of well-known Italian songs arranged by Glenn Osser. Osser was an arranger for many well-known dance orchestras in New York City. During World War II, he served in the U.S. Maritime Service. After the war, he became the conductor of the ABC TV Orchestra and also the director of the Miss America pageants. The songs in this medley are Summertime in Venice, Love Theme from La Strada, and Anima a Core, which means heart and soul. Good evening. Our next piece is called When I'm 64, written by Paul McCartney of the Beatles. He wrote this song when he was 16, and the Beatles recorded it several years later in 1966. And this arrangement is by John Wasson.
We're going to have an extra little treat now. We're going to have some brass quartets by our low brass section.
Well, we're bringing out some of the low brass here for a little treat, we hope. What we've got is a tuba quartet here, and there's a lot of music written for tuba quartets. They really become popular around Christmas time. If any of you have been in to Faneuil Hall Marketplace or some of the other locations where they have tuba Christmas, it's only tubas. Now what we have here is two bass tubas, which are played by Melita and Michael, and two tenor tubas, or baritones, which are played by me, Bob Brown, and Sheila. So first piece we're gonna play is There Is a Tavern in the Town. The next piece, we're not going to let you go yet. The next piece we got is an old German folk song. It's an old hunting song called Im Wald and Off to Heidi, which is through the woods and over the heather.
That was wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Thanks, Melita and Michael and Bob and Sheila. That was a wonderful little treat to add to our concert tonight. So 2018 marks the 100th anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. And the Canton Community Band recently presented 3 concerts in 3 area communities commemorating this centennial. Our programs featured music that was popular during the World War I years, along with historical commentary presented by historian Pat Leahy, who happens to be sitting right over there. We're happy to include some of this Armistice Centennial program in tonight's concert here in Canton. And now for a little bit of history on World War I and the Armistice. You probably all have heard that on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918, the guns ceased firing. What isn't well known is that the actual armistice was signed 6 hours earlier at 5 a.m. Paris time. This means that the fighting continued for another 6 hours while the armies jockeyed for the final position, and thousands more men died before the guns finally stopped at 11 a.m. The Battle of Chateau Thierry took place almost 100 years ago today, on July 18, 1918. This was one of the first actions of the American Expeditionary Forces under General Blackshack Pershing. American units fought under French command and contributed to the stopping of the last major German offensive in France. The title of our next selection is Chateau Thierry March. This is by Carl L. King. Carl King was born in 1891 in Ohio. King conducted the Barnum Bailey Circus Band for the 1917 and 1918 seasons. He composed over 200 marches. From 1920 to 1971, over 50 years, King served as the director of the Fort Dodge, Iowa Municipal Band, which is now known as the Carl King Band. Today, King ranks only behind John Philip Sousa as American march composer. So our next tune is Chateau Thierry March.
So the American Legion is a U.S. wartime veterans organization formed in Paris on March 15th, 1919, by 3 officers of the American Expeditionary Forces, the AEF. It was chartered by Congress on September 16th, 1919. It is headquartered in Indianapolis, Indiana, and among many other activities, the Legion played the leading role in drafting and passing of the Servicemen's Readjustment Act of 1944, otherwise known as the GI Bill. The American Legion helps former soldiers by giving them a place to socialize and to get medical advice. It is a special club for people who understand the stresses of war and the toll that it takes on a person and their families. Also in 1919, the Canton American Legion Post 24 was established. It was named after Edward J. Beatty, the first serviceman from Canton to lose his life in World War I. After their original building burned down in 1942, the Canton American Legion Post 24 moved to its own building behind the Canton High School, right over there. So the composer for this march, the American Legion March, Charles Wesley Parker, was born in Baton Rouge, Louisiana in 1878. And while it has been reported that Parker wrote numerous band works, the only one published was the American Legion March. So now for you, the American Legion March.
Boys and girls, I need some help. We're going to march around to the American Legion March. Okay, come on in, kids, right here. You're going to follow me around as we march. Okay, thank you. You're a little child. I know you very well. Okay, she's going to be... You want to be in front of us? Okay. Come on, children, a little more. Okay. We're going to take so much time, we're going to end after this. Okay, here we go. Our next number is how you're going to keep them down on the farm. after they've seen Paris. It was written by Walter Donaldson in 1919. The words were by Joe Young and Sam M. Lewis. This song rose to popularity after World War I. It highlights concerns that American soldiers from rural environments might not want to return home after experiencing a European city like Paris. The composer of the music, Walter Donaldson, was born in Brooklyn, New York. In 1893, he became a song promoter and a pianist and entertained troops during World War I. Some of the song lyrics are, how are you going to keep them down on the farm after they've seen Paris? How are you going to keep them away from Broadway, jazzing around and painting the town? How are you going to keep them away from harm? That's a mystery. They'll never want to see a rake or a plow. And who the deuce can parlez-vous a cow? I don't know what that means. How are you going to keep them down on the farm after they've seen Paris? So here's the song.
So the Slavic Women's Farewell, or Farewell Slavianka, is by, I'm not going to pronounce this too well, but Vasily Ivanovich Agapkin. It's a Russian patriotic march written by Agapkin in 1912 in honor of Slavic, perhaps Bulgarian women saying farewell to their husbands, leaving to fight in the First Balkan War. Supposedly, Agapkin was inspired to write the piece by viewing newsreels of the Balkan Wars while he was working as a pianist in a cinema. Written and premiered in Tambov, Russia in 1912, the melody gained popularity in Russia and adjoining countries during World War I.
So our next tune is a medley. It's called the Over There Medley. This is a selection of American war songs arranged by M.L. Lake. Some of the songs include The Rose of No Man's Land. This is a song written as a tribute to the Red Cross nurses at the front lines of the First World War. No Man's Land is the area between the two lines of trenches. Katie was popular during World War I. The lyrics tell of a brave but awkward soldier called Jimmy who is lovesick over the beautiful Katie. He buys a wedding ring before he goes to France. Keep Your Head Down, Fritzy Boy was inspired by a brave Tommy who is a British soldier, and this was written at the Battle of Ypres in 1915. And then Over There, which is probably the most familiar song, was written in 1917. This was a hit song written by George M. Cohan. It was popular with the United States military and the public during both World Wars. Cohan later recalled that the words and music to the song came to him while traveling by train from New Rochelle to New York shortly after the U.S. had declared war against Germany in April of 1917. Okay, so our assistant is going to be Ariana. Okay, she's going to help us. She's going to be turning the pages that tell you the name of the song that we're going to be playing. Okay, so this is the Over There medley. Give a hand for our assistant, Ariana. Thank you.
Hoch-Heidelberg March by Rudolf Herzer, also known as the Watchtower March, Oboe Duveen, and Heil Heidelberg. As the Watchtower is the regimental march of the Royal Military Police in Britain, an authority on German military marches described Hoch-Heidelberg as the most popular concert march of its time. Herzer was inspired to write the march by the magnificent castle, the Heidelberg, in princely city of Rudolstadt, Germany. Herzer spent most of his childhood under the shadow of this castle. Herzer became a military bandsman and composed Heidelberg during maneuvers in 1912. It became very popular in Germany and also within Britain. And now the Hoch-Heidelberg March. It's a Long, Long Way to Tipperary by Jack Judge and Harry Williams is the British music hall song written and was allegedly written for a 5-shilling bet in England in 1912 and performed the next night at a local music hall. This song was enormously popular in England and abroad during World War I. Jack Judge wrote numerous popular songs, but is best known for Tipperary. Judge's grandparents came from Tipperary, Ireland. Tipperary was featured as one of the songs in many films and musicals, including On Moonlight Bay, Oh What a Lovely War, and the 1970 musical Darling Lily, sung by Julie Andrews. Another example of its use is in the annual television special It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, 1966. Snoopy, who fancies himself as a World War flying ace, dances to a medley of First World War era songs played by Schroeder. When Snoopy hears Tipperary, he falls into a marching pace. The cast of the Mary Tyler Moore Show marched off screen, singing this song at the conclusion of the series' final episode. And now, it's a long, long way to Tipperary.
Good evening. Hope you're all enjoying this concert. Our next piece is going to be How You Going to Wet Your Whistle When the Whole Darn World Has Gone Dry. Pre-Prohibition songs became popular in the years prior to Prohibition, and people feared that Prohibition would extend worldwide. The composer of this song was Percy Wenrich, who was born in 1887 in Joplin, Missouri. He wrote many popular songs and scores for Broadway shows. Maybe some of the lyrics would be appropriate. Everybody seems to talk of Prohibition and what they think when everything is dry. How are you going to get around this new condition and keep a happy twinkle in your eye? It's very easy now to get a drink, but tell me, did you ever stop and think, how are you going to wet your whistle when the whole darn world goes dry. What are you going to do in the morning when you need a nip to open your eye? You got a problem then. Now, what of the wedding and the christening and the wake when your dear friend's dead? I don't know about that. How are you going to wet your whistle when the whole world has gone dry? In 1917, the United States entered World War I, and President Woodrow Wilson instituted a temporary wartime prohibition of alcohol in order to save grain for producing food. I don't think it really had anything to do with prohibition, but it had to do with wanting to make food. It really didn't have anything to do with stopping the boys from drinking. However, his initiative fueled the fire for prohibition. During this time, and right up to the enactment of prohibition, individual states also enacted their own prohibition legislation, and finally in 1920, the National Prohibition Act went into effect, also known as the Volstead Act, also known as the 18th Amendment to the United States Constitution. Interestingly, on that exact day of the law's activation at 12 a.m. on January 17, 1920, the first violation of that act occurred at 12:59 a.m. when two train cars filled with medicinal whiskey were hijacked. Anyway, the supporters of the National Prohibition Act included, among other organizations, the Ku Klux Klan, which is very, very interesting. They all thought that we were going to die of edema of swelling of the organs by drinking all of this beer. What's interesting also was that it wasn't a crime to drink the alcohol, but it was a crime to sell it. Speakeasies sprung up everywhere, and in New York City alone there were over 30,000 speakeasies. And the word speakeasy came from the fact that you had to go up to the door, knock on the door, have a secret code word, and either get shot if you had the wrong word or run. So what you needed to do was you had to go to a legitimate place that could let you go in to see something very odd, and they would serve, they had to serve alcohol as a complimentary beverage. Home production of bathtub gin was also legal, but you couldn't sell it. My father actually told me that he had a 1927 Chevy with two gas tanks. One was for gas and one was for bathtub gin. There you go. Thank you. I hope you enjoy it. Enjoy the gin too.
So for our last march, we're playing the Red Cross March by Louis Pinella. This march is the most popular of Louis Pinella's marches, inspired by events of World War I. He composed the American Red Cross March to pay tribute to the humanitarian efforts of that organization. The American Red Cross was founded in 1881 by Clara Barton, and the organization provides emergency assistance, disaster relief, and education in the United States. It's designated as a U.S. affiliate of the International Federation of Red Cross and Red Crescent Societies, founded in 1919, right after World War I. It's also the teacher of international humanitarian law in the United States, by the way, and it's the primary connection between American families and their service members overseas. So American Red Cross workers go with troops overseas to be at the other end of those messages, emergency messages, babies being born, all that good stuff. So Louis Pinella composed over 200 popular songs and marches and performed with several orchestras, including the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra. Most of Louis Pinella's marches were written in honor of people, places, and organizations. So here it is, the American Red Cross March.
Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed the concert, had a nice evening, and hope you enjoy the rest of your summer. Canton Community Band is always welcoming new members, so if you play an instrument or you know someone who plays an instrument, come and see us. We rehearse on every Thursday evening year-round, do lots of concerts and lots of fun things. So thank you very much. Have a good summer.